The next gen edition of The Witcher 3 is right around the corner, so I thought I should make a video about what in my opinion are both the most significant and easy to miss quests in the game, and what you should and should not do if you want to get most of them. I will try to be quick and not go into too much detail of what happens in each and every quest. If you want to know more about that, you can check my Details Missed playlist, where I have hundreds of hopefully interesting videos all about The Witcher 3. And if you've already watched everything in there, well, you can probably close the video because you will likely not learn anything new here. Okay, without further delay, let's start with the quests that are either time-sensitive or become unavailable under certain circumstances. The first thing that comes to mind is actually a pair of quests called Following the Thread and Flesh for Sale. Normally, you will stumble upon Following the Thread first. It begins at the notice board in Novigrad, in the main square, and it is here where you meet Lambert for the first time. Not too long afterwards, he will send you on a mission to Skellige, and by that point, it's already too late for you to do Flesh for Sale, which happens roughly at the same location. So even though you will naturally head to Novigrad before Skellige, you should probably wait until you reach Faro and do Flesh for Sale before starting Following the Thread. However, with that said, don't wait too long before completing Lambert's quest either. I know many people have missed the final part of it because they found Uma and went to Kaer Morhen first. So make sure you finish Following the Thread before getting Uma from the Baron's castle. This is because once Lambert goes to Kaer Morhen, he won't return to Novigrad anymore. Next up, there's actually another group of quests in Skellige that are equally if not easier to miss. It all begins by doing the Phantom of Eldberg contract in Arinbjorn, and more specifically doing it before you've solved the matter of Skellige's crown, meaning before you've finished Ceres and Hjalmar's personal quests and determine who's going to rule Skellige. And keep in mind that that has to be done before the Battle of Kaer Morhen as well. So if you do the contract prior to that, you will end up imprisoned by Madman Lugos. And this will open up two quests for you. The first one is called Cave of Dreams, involving Blue Boy Lugos, and it can actually be completed even without getting imprisoned if you go to the quest's location. However, you still have to do it within the same window of time, aka before the coronation. Now, the second quest that becomes available only if you get imprisoned is one that I've previously called the rarest quest in the game, and I think I have a good reason for it. There are several ways to get out of your prison cell, but the one you must choose if you want to do this is with this man's help. He's standing deeper into the prison, his name is Simon Brambling, and if you get out with his help, he can be found next to the inn at Kertrolda several days later. And this is only available if you've already completed the Cave of Dreams. So if you then speak to Simon, you will have the option of accepting yet another quest where he requests your help with a personal matter, and ultimately you'll get to choose whether he lives or dies. So in order to get this quest, you'll have to go through a chain of 4 or 5 events, each of which are either time sensitive or can be skipped or done in a way that prevents you from continuing. So first, before you solve the matter of Skellige's ruler, you have to visit Arinbjorn and do the Phantom of Eldberg quest. When that one is completed, you will get imprisoned and you have to get out with Simon's help, not by any other means, and there are a few. Next, do the Cave of Dreams quest with Blue Boy, which can only be done before the coronation, and finally wait a few days and find Simon near the Inn of Kertrolda so you can pick the final quest. Alright, what should we cover next? I did mention the Battle of Kaer Morhen, which is a turning point in the game and prevents you from finishing many of the main characters' personal quests if you haven't done them earlier. Now, the game will actually give you a hint about that, and it will even encourage you to seek out some of your allies and finish their personal quests beforehand, but it will not remind you about everything that needs to be finished, such as Lambert's quest, for example. Basically, make sure that you've wrapped up everything before the Battle of Kaer Morhen, and even better, before you get Uma from the Bloody Baron, because some quests will start failing as early as that point. So before completing the Ugly Baby quest, you should help the Bloody Baron look for his wife in the Crookback Bog, help Triss get the mages out of Novigrad, help Yennefer get her last wish. By the way, your romances with these two women will fail if you don't finish their quests in time, so be careful. And also, if you tell both of them that you love them, be careful as well. Also, help Kira Metz on Phi Kyle.
Shame you didn't talk that way when we
Oh, and there's another small side quest in Kira's area called Lynch Mob. You should do it before finishing her quest, because I think it fails if not done before the date night. Also, help Zoltan get his Gwent addiction in check, help Roach and Vess do their, rebel stuff, help Dandelion build his new establishment, solve his beloved's murder attempt. Also, before that, when you meet his ex-girlfriends, make sure to win both fights against Rosa, because otherwise you won't get the follow-up quest with her, where you give her fencing lessons. So basically, do every quest related to a character who is part of the main story before finding Uma, or at least before the Battle of Kaer Morhen. Additionally, about Triss's quest, when you help her get the mages out of Novigrad, you will also pick up a quest from Dijkstra called Deadly Plot. It is one of 3 quests that you must do before the Battle of Kaer Morhen if you wish to later get the follow-up called Reason of State, which ultimately leads to the optional assassination of Radovid, and potentially changes the ending of the game. The other 2 are Eye for an Eye, where you help Roach and Vess, and Redania's Most Wanted, where you look for Philippa at Radovid's behest. The game will remind you about Roach and Vess before it's too late. However, I don't think it will encourage you to look for Philippa, and you have to do it before Kaer Morhen as well. Also, I mentioned changes to the game's ending, but I decided not to go into how to get all the different endings here, since I have a video dedicated to that exclusively, so have a look at it if you wish. But back to Triss's quest for now, because there are at least 3 encounters related to it that can be easily missed. The first one is on the pyre outside Glory Gate, where you can find and free Moritz, the guy you meet with Triss during the masquerade. And if you free him before helping the mages leave Novigrad, he can actually join them, despite a bug that causes his character model to get stuck in the sewers. The second encounter is a mage who is being hunted in the non-human district. If you help him in time, he can also be seen joining the mages in their escape. The third encounter is a drug dealer by the docks who isn't actually related to Triss or the mages, but he will get killed and his quest will become unavailable if you approach him and don't intervene in his quarrel with a group of thugs. And you will be forced to approach him while doing the part of Triss's quest where you take her to the witch hunters.
Burning with the witch hunters.
Didn't see it anywhere.
And just to throw something else in here, there is a similar quest not far from here which will similarly disappear if you approach it, but do not interact with the role-playing couple. Okay, I think that's all when it comes to Triss. Who else is there? Oh, Letho. So, the Fall of House Reardon quest, this one involves him, if he is alive, will also be unavailable after Kaer Morhen. Finally, when it comes to the crucial moments of the main story, let me throw in a couple of things you might want to do in the right time when it comes to the expansions, Hearts of Stone and Blood and Wine. First, if you manage to complete the quest in the auction house before the Battle of Kaer Morhen, you will have a unique piece of dialogue with Vesemir about his old lover. Then, during the ending where you side with Gontor Odim, you will be able to ask him about Ciri if you haven't found her in the main story yet. Also, at any point before the ending of the main game, where you can talk to Triss, Yennefer or Ciri, if you still carry Gontor Odim's mark on you, you will be able to ask each one of the 3 about it. In fact, you will also be able to ask Regis from Blood and Wine about it if you talk to him in Detlef's toy shop before finishing Hearts of Stone.
For even the longest discourse would not allow me to explain to my interlocutor any issue of this purview satisfactorily.
Now I suppose I should say what happens if you decide not to do the things I've been talking about so far. In some cases you will simply miss out on content, like Flesh for Sale for example, or not being able to assassinate Radovid, but in other cases you will actually get something unique, like if you don't do the Skellige coronation, or you don't help Triss lead the mages out of Novigrad. So I do recommend doing a playthrough where you try to skip everything you can to see what happens. And you can also check my Details Missed playlist, where I've covered pretty much all of that, in addition to doing things in different order, which may also result in unique lines or cutscenes, and so on. Okay, now what about the smaller side quests? Those that are usually not time sensitive or not strongly tied to the main story. There are so many of them in The Witcher 3, some of which are more difficult to find than others because they are either off the beaten path or not associated to any question marks on the map. And I've thought about them when making this video and decided that covering all the locations of all these quests in video format is probably not the best idea. So I've linked a couple of wiki pages in the description where you can have a look at a list of side quests and find the ones you haven't done yet. What I will do is tell you about little quirks and details that might cause you to miss some aspects or follow-ups of one of these quests. First off, as a general rule, when you complete a side quest, wait a week or so of in-game time and go back to the person and location where you took the quest and then to the place where you completed the quest. Oftentimes you will notice important changes in scenery or get an extra bit of dialogue or cutscene. That is the case for many quests. The one about Lena and Tomira, about Dune and his brother, about Dolores, about the old widow and the children, the werewolf hunter, the cannibals in Hearts of Stone, and so on and so forth. Additionally, there will be some quests that have a hidden follow-up, similar to the one about Simon Brambling in Skellige. Most are not as rare or dependent on so many things, but still, it's usually something that appears after an X amount of time passes. Examples off the top of my head are, again, the fate of Lena from Tomira's hut in White Orchard. You can learn about it at the Nilfgaardian outpost in southern Velen. You can give Thaler his lost monocle when you play Gwent with him at the Seven Cats, if you looted it from the house of the old pan lady in White Orchard. There's the second encounter with the man who's transporting the plague victims over here, the 3 encounters with the man who owes you money in Skellige, with Ronvid of Smallmarsh meeting these bandits on the bridge a week after you cross it for the first time, the ghost of the old woman who can be seen only at night. There are the traders you encounter in Velen who will later move into Crow's Perch. And speaking of Crow's Perch, by the way, there are also the scenes of the Baron's men terrorizing the citizens after he's gone from his castle. And the trend continues in full force in Blood and Wine, where you can meet the Bard from the tourney after it concludes. This is near the Nilfgaardian embassy. You can meet Vivienne and Guillaume after the game's ending in various ways depending on how you handled things. Guillaume can be dead in the graveyard, alive and drunk on the streets, together with Vivienne, and she in turn can be alone in Novigrad and even 7 years later dead in Skellige. Once again, I've talked about all these things at length in my Details Missed series, and if you wish to know more, you can have a look there. And with that, I believe I'm done. I can already feel that I've missed talking about something important, but I'm sure it will be mentioned in the comments. So feel free to share anything that's on your mind, and I thank you very much for watching. Special thanks to my supporters and YouTube members. Best of luck in your adventures in the next gen edition of The Witcher 3, and until the next video, stay tuned and be good.